Good evening, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and we begin tonight with affordability, the political buzzword of the moment and the single most important issue to Americans, especially as the holiday season kicks into full swing. President Trump has called affordability a con job, a hoax, a fake narrative created by Democrats. But today, after reported concerns from his top aides, the president acknowledged it is a problem, and he says he's going to fix it.
We inherited a mess, affordability, but you can call it affordability or anything you want, but the Democrats caused the affordability problem, and we're the ones that are fixing it. So it's a very simple statement. They caused it, we're fixing it.
One way he says he's doing that is by providing much-needed relief to one of his core constituencies, farmers.
They're the backbone of our country, so we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers.
Now, that $12 billion aid package will be funded by revenue raised through Trump's tariffs. Farmers who grow soybeans, corn, and rice were at that roundtable today as Trump made the announcement. They've been hit really hard by the tariffs, especially soybean farmers who've been caught in the middle of a U.S.-China trade war. China stopped buying all American soybeans in retaliation for the tariffs, and farmers have been left holding the bag, literally unable to sell their crops. One farmer who was at that table next to President Trump thanked him for bringing Christmas early with this aid package.
The other day, I was reading my little boy a story at night, putting him to bed, and he said, "Daddy, I don't want Santa Claus to come to our house for Christmas. I want President Trump." and I think, Mr. Trump, I think you brought Christmas to farmers. With this bridge payment, we'll be able to farm another year.
Now, all this comes as President Trump is set to travel to Pennsylvania tomorrow to give a big speech on his economic agenda, as many polls show Americans deeply worried and unhappy with the job he's done so far on affordability. NewsNation's Kelly Meyer joins us now live from Pennsylvania, where the president is set to speak tomorrow. Kelly, do we expect the president to unveil any new ideas on how to juice the economy?
You know, there could always be that chance, Elizabeth, but from what I'm hearing is he's going to really hit the road to try to sell his affordability message. We actually heard that this wasn't going to start until next year, so this does seem to be starting sooner than expected as he's hitting the road following those November election results, as he talked about his frustration with the Republican Party for not focusing in enough, as he said, on what he's been able to do to address the economy, he says, this year, as Democrats really won big on affordability, including here in the local elections in this bellwether county of Luzerne County. We are in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, where we talked with folks who aren't feeling that Christmas joy that you just played in that soundbite there from that man with President Trump today. There are folks that we talked to that say they are struggling to put gifts under the tree, that they are all kind of combining family gifts to make it look like there's more gifts under the tree. A woman got emotional talking to me earlier today about that. And they are saying, pretty much everyone we talked to are saying they are feeling it in some way. Now, some folks are saying that they feel as though President Trump has a handle on it. It's going to get better. They believe that he will make it get better. Others say it's only gotten worse and they are frustrated. So the president is going to face that message when he comes here tomorrow. Let me play a little bit from those folks we talked to at the diner earlier today, and we could talk more on the other side. How would you say things are going here in this area?
Well, not well. No. And I certainly won't be running up to the Poconos to see him, that's for sure.
You're just feeling it?
Yep, no, everybody's feeling it. Everybody. And I feel very bad for young couples because I don't know what their future's going to be.
As far as food, yeah. I mean, food prices are up, but I think gas is coming down. I think things are getting a lot better. It's going to take time, because of the damage that the last administration did, I think. So it's going to take a lot of time, but things are better.
And folks we talked to there, Elizabeth, also say the shutdown really hurt them and impacted them here, too. Now, President Trump was here last year as he was campaigning here in Wilkes-Barre, and he promised folks that he was going to tackle this issue on day one as soon as he took the oath of office. We actually have that bite, I believe, to play for you, and then more of what President Trump had to say today. Take a listen to this.
Starting the day I take the oath of office, I will rapidly drive prices down, and we will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again. Well, I think the prices are going to be going down already. I mean, the prices are way down. We brought prices way down from what it was. We inherited high prices. We inherited the biggest inflation in the history of our country. That means prices going up. And we brought it down very substantially.
So the place where people say they are feeling it the most here is at the grocery store, for sure. They say the prices there are too expensive and just getting higher, they say. So this is going to be what President Trump is going to have to hear tomorrow and see what message he delivers to those folks, if he's able to sell his affordability message or see what response he gets here in northeastern Pennsylvania, Elizabeth.
All right, Kelly Meyer, you'll be right there for it. Thanks so much. We're going to switch now to Charlotte, North Carolina, where there's been another stabbing on the city's light rail system. It's reigniting debate over immigration and crime. 33-year-old Oscar Solorzano is an illegal immigrant from Honduras who's already been deported twice. He made his first court appearance today after police arrested him Friday night and charged him with 5 counts, including attempted first-degree murder. Solorzano is accused of stabbing another man with a large knife while he was intoxicated on the Charlotte Blue Line. That is the same route where Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska was stabbed and killed nearly 4 months ago. Solorzano is now being held without bond. Let's go live now to NewsNation senior correspondent Brian Enton on the ground for us in Charlotte. Brian, this case is getting a lot of national attention, including from President Trump, by the way, who posted about it this weekend. You were in the courtroom today. What did we learn about the case?
Yeah, I was up in court here in Charlotte when he made his first appearance, and it's disturbing. I mean, we heard an account from the victim of exactly how this went down on the light rail train, the same rail line, as you mentioned, where we saw the awful stabbing of the Ukrainian refugee just 4 months ago. Basically, this victim says that this guy, this illegal immigrant, was on the train, was flailing, was almost acting drunk, was fighting, was yelling. He basically approached him to calm him down, had to push him at one moment, and that's when he says that Solorzano pulled a knife out and stabbed him. The victim is still in the hospital. He's in critical but stable condition. He actually has a GoFundMe that he posted with some photos, and he's actually got like a tube down his throat. I mean, it's not a good situation for him as he continues to recover. But in terms of Solorzano, he has been deported twice, Elizabeth. One time under Trump, the first time he was in office. Then he snuck back in when Biden was in office over the Texas border in from Mexico. He was deported again and then managed to get back into the country for a third time. He has a long rap sheet. I was just looking over the charges: robbery, aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and now he can add this to the list. He's got an attempted murder charge now. Elizabeth?
All right, Brian Enton reporting live from Charlotte. Let's bring in Ed Driggs now, Republican councilman for the city of Charlotte. Ed, thanks for being here. So this man was deported twice. He had a criminal history. Why was he still out on the street?
Well, the question is, how did he get back in the country? Once he's in the country, it's hard for us to know his whereabouts exactly. He must have crossed the border somewhere down south, made his way to Charlotte, and we don't have a way of recognizing that right away. So it's very hard for us to know when somebody has come back after they've been arrested and deported.
Yeah, just last week, DHS touted the success of Operation Charlotte's Web there in Charlotte. More than 425 arrests since mid-November. How did this man slip through? He's the very definition of what the DHS says it's targeting in these sweeps.
I think during that sweep, they had to try to identify the bad guys from the good guys. And we have a large population here, 930,000. There are many legal immigrants. And so that force was trying to go after targeted people that they knew were here and deal with them. And of course, in those few days, they couldn't get everybody.
Do you know if this man was on their list?
I do not know. We were told very little about that action before, and then during it, they coordinated with our sheriff's department, but not with the police department that the council was responsible for.
This stabbing happened less than 4 months after Irina Zarutska was stabbed to death, allegedly by a homeless, mentally ill man. This raises real questions about safety and security on your train system.
Well, I would like to point out this is the sort of crime that could have occurred without any special notice, except for the circumstance of that prior dreadful, hideous stabbing on the train, and of course the sweep. So it has all the makings of a story. And Charlotte does not have an exceptional crime rate. We're kind of mid-pack among American cities statistically. We are taking action to enhance security on the trains and in the city generally. But it's just unfortunate that given the context of that terrible attack that occurred before and the sweep against illegal immigrants, that this is getting special attention.
Yeah, we should point out this isn't just a Charlotte issue. It's in big cities like New York and Chicago as well, where you have either illegal immigrants who are committing crimes on train systems, or you have homeless or mentally ill people, or people who are addicted to drugs. And it raises the whole question, the debate that's come up every time, as to whether or not people who are severely mentally ill or severely addicted to drugs should be allowed to remain on the street, because so many of them do, especially in the winter, take refuge on city transportation systems like your train.
So I did talk to the district attorney about that, and I said, what is there that we can do? And he said the only way you can basically apprehend somebody because they're mentally ill is by condemning them, by committing them to an establishment. And that's a legal proceeding that has a very heavy burden of evidence. There are a lot of people who are unwell, who are not dangerous. They're not likely to become violent. So knowing in advance which ones to specially target and to go put them through that process of committing them to an institution, which is a form of incarceration, presents challenges to the district attorney and to law enforcement.
Do you think, though, as somebody who's in your role as a council member and oversight of that small mid-city, but this is a debate we're having not just in cities across the country, but even in the last presidential election. We see this happening right now in New York City with the mayor, the newly elected mayor Mamdani, saying that he's going to roll back some of the forcibly taking people off the streets who really have no business being on the street because they cannot care for themselves. Is this a bigger debate you think this country should be having about whether or not it is really humane to let these people stay on the street, especially when some of them do commit very violent crimes?
I think it's a big, especially urban issue, and we should deal with it. We are in Charlotte trying to deal with it, so we've taken steps to enhance our efforts in the area of mental health. I think one of the good things that came out of Irina, a good thing, was the heightened awareness and an increased sense of urgency around the subject. But as I say, what can often happen is you provide shelters, you offer treatment. Many people don't want to be treated. And then you get back to the question of whether you have grounds to commit them involuntarily because they represent a threat to themselves or others.
Right. The whole argument being, is it really humane to let them stay on the street and care for themselves? And are they able to make that decision for themselves? What's happened to the suspect in this latest stabbing? He's being held without bond now. What's going to happen next? Will he be tried?
Well, he is in ICE detention. It's not actually the city council's department to determine whether he is tried or deported. Personally, I would hope that he is tried and incarcerated in this country for the crime he committed here, because based on experience, if we deport him, he'll be back.
Yeah, he's made it back twice after being deported, or actually a third time because he was here to commit this crime, allegedly. Councilman Ed Driggs, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
All right, coming up, Luigi Mangione entered the courtroom with a fist bump today. But did he end the day as confident as he started? We've got the latest details of day 4 of that hearing to throw out crucial key evidence against him. And then she is much more than a TV wife. I sat down for a wide-ranging conversation with actress Cheryl Hines about her new memoir, her marriage to Health Secretary RFK Jr., and the cold shoulder she's getting from Hollywood. That's all coming up. Accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione gave a rare pose for the camera today as new evidence was released on day 4 of his pretrial hearing. The 27-year-old flashed a fist bump before the hearing got underway. Tomorrow marks 1 year since Mangione was arrested for the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Evidence seized in that arrest is at the center of this marathon meeting. Mangione's attorneys say some of the items were taken without a warrant and before Mangione was read his Miranda rights. They want that evidence thrown out. That evidence is crucial. It includes a handwritten to-do list. Prosecutors claim Mangione wrote it while he was on the run after Thompson's murder. On it was written Best Buy, USB, and Digital Cam. The list also had reminders for hot meal, trash bags, and survival kit. Photos of a Greyhound bus ticket issued to Sam Dawson were also revealed. That is one of several aliases that prosecutors say Mangione used. Evidence also shown in court included pictures of a folding knife, a USB drive on a silver necklace, and thousands of dollars in $100 bills. These are all items that police found on Mangione when they took him into custody at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. They are also items his defense attorneys are trying to get thrown out. Police were tipped off by a McDonald's manager who called 911 saying a customer there looked like the CEO killer.
I'm a manager at Plank Road McDonald's out here on the Boulevard. Okay. And I have a customer here that some other customers were suspicious of, that he looks like the CEO shooter from New York. Okay.
Now, body cam footage played in court today from the police officers also show officers finding a loaded magazine tucked inside a pair of wet underwear inside of Mangione's backpack. All right, to break all of this down, we're joined now by former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani and Jesse Weber, NewsNation legal contributor and Law and Crime Network host. Nima, I'm going to start with you. They played a lot of body cam video today in this court. And you can see it from the McDonald's arrest, and you can see and hear Mangione say he did not want to talk. But police kept asking questions, and then Mangione kept answering them for 20 minutes before they read him his rights. Why did they continue to ask him questions?
Well, they probably shouldn't have. When you've been arrested and you've been given your Miranda rights and you unequivocally invoke those rights, police are supposed to stop questioning for a reasonable period of time. Now, obviously...
Yeah, but we're talking about he wasn't Mirandized at that point. They walk in, they arrest him, they start talking to him. He says, I don't want to talk. And that they continue talking to him and he continues answering, all without a Miranda.
So there's the issue of Miranda, which is a potential problem in the case, but just him invoking is enough to invoke those Miranda rights. So you're really talking about the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment here. What prosecutors are trying to do is move that arrest forward in time. And the reason that's important, the earlier he's arrested, the earlier they can search him incident to arrest, and they can search that backpack. Now, of course, being arrested, and arresting doesn't necessarily mean just having handcuffs on you. It's a reasonable person feels that they can't leave. That does trigger those Miranda warnings. And obviously, if the warnings aren't given and statements are made that violate Miranda, they can be suppressed. But I think what the prosecution is trying to do here is get the evidence in, even if they don't get those statements in, Elizabeth.
Jesse, we know also from that body cam footage that police answered this 911 call thinking this is not going to be Mangione. They're like on tape joking about sandwiches as they drive to the McDonald's. They're very laid back about it. The footage also shows that once they do realize that it is Mangione, they debate about whether or not they need a warrant to search his backpack, even as they proceed to do just that.
Yeah, so that's problematic. In a great world, perfect world, they would have had a warrant. In a perfect world, they wouldn't be debating about whether or not they need a warrant, whether or not there's this is an incident to arrest. You wouldn't have one of the officers who searched his backpack, arguably giddy, right? There was an argument that she was giddy, was a part of this, thought it was the CEO shooter. So these are problems. I will say, though, Nima might disagree. I will say, though, I think they're in the clear. I think that there's a strong argument that he gave a forged ID that precipitated an arrest. They were allowed at that point to look at his bag. Now, of course, the defense will say that's way too extreme. There was no reason. Yes, The officer will say they were searching for a bomb. Defense will say, if you really thought there was a bomb, how come you didn't clear the McDonald's? I think that's a little bit of a distraction. Under the law, you can even do an inventory search of somebody upon an arrest. And yes, one other thing I should mention, under the law, something that I imagine prosecutors are going to say, it's called the inevitable discovery doctrine. If you would have found this evidence, if you would have discovered it through lawful means, if a search warrant was in process, they would have gotten it. And I think that's an argument that may work at the end of the day, and that they followed the proper protocols, because this was happening very, very rapidly. And you wonder if a judge is going to second guess what these officers did in real time.
So to be clear, Jesse, you think that his statements to police during that 20 minutes before he was Mirandized and everything in the backpack, all that crucial evidence, all of it will not be thrown out?
I think there could be a problem with the statement since he wasn't Mirandized for 20 minutes. They'll say it wasn't a custodial interrogation, but, I mean, were 20 officers around him? Could he really be free to leave? I think the statements might be problematic. But then again, the statements are not the crux of the case. It's really all about what's in that backpack. I believe, again, Nima could disagree, I believe the prosecution has a stronger argument that that evidence was properly discovered and will be admitted into trial. And if it's not, if they lose this, that's a big problem for the prosecution.
Nima, what do you think?
I agree, and that's why the timing of that arrest matters. So I think Jesse and I are completely aligned. They could have arrested him because they recognized him from the video and the wanted posters, or they could have arrested him because he gave a false ID and a false name, right? Today, the officer said, I knew it was him after I searched the backpack. Well, that's a problem. That's not what you want. You want that search incident to arrest. You want that inventory search. Even if the statements go out because you didn't Mirandize him, you still want the evidence in. So I think Jesse and I agree. I think the evidence will come in, but the statements, they may not.
That's pretty amazing. In the meantime, Nima, what do you make of this list, this to-do list, and the fact that he had buy a survival kit on it? It sounds like he was planning to try and escape into the wilderness.
He was, and flight is consciousness of guilt. So the fact that he has this, he has the currency, both domestic and foreign. Obviously, he fled to another state. That's all great evidence for the prosecution, including everything they found in the backpack, the firearm, the ammunition, of course, and that journal notebook, or the manifesto, as people are calling it.
So, Jesse, today's hearing only applies to the state case. It doesn't apply to the federal case. Remember, we have two different jurisdictions who have filed charges against him. We talked about this before. If, in fact, his statements are tossed out of the state case, what happens in the federal case?
You are 100% right. It's two separate jurisdictions, two separate courts, but I got to say, if a judge is persuaded to toss out these statements, or a judge is persuaded that Mangione's rights were violated, we're talking about the same set of facts, the same considerations.
Exactly.
You do wonder if a federal judge is going to side on the same way. So I think this state hearing is very pivotal to the federal hearing.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see do we know when this judge is going to make a ruling on this?
I mean, Nima, basically, he could decide right at the end of the hearing, or may take a minute to absorb all the evidence. But I think he's learning more details. The judge is learning more details day in and day out, particularly from the testimony of these officers.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nima Rahmani, Jesse Weber. It was fascinating watching that court proceeding today. Thank you both so much. All right. Coming up, my one-on-one conversation with actress Cheryl Hines.
I knew that was going to be a life changer, but I didn't know how it would change our lives.
We'll discuss her new memoir and whether her husband, Health Secretary RFK Jr., will run for president in 2028. That's next. So if you flew into Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. today, you would have seen a pretty unusual sight. America's 71-year-old Health and Human Services Secretary casually doing pull-ups in the middle of the terminal.
40, 50, oh man.
He's coming for you, Paul.
He's coming for me. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Done. Let's go. Get up there. Come
He
on.
wants one more.
Did that last one count? I don't know. His chin might have just made that far. Listen, I can't do a single one. That was Robert Kennedy Jr. and his Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy having a competition at the airport on pull-ups. It was all part of their effort to make airports healthy again. Everybody's for that. And while RFK was doing chin-ups with Sean Duffy, his wife Cheryl Hines was here at NewsNation in New York City talking to me. Cheryl has lived an interesting life, to say the least. Not to mention, she's had an illustrious acting career. Most will recognize her as the long-suffering wife and then ex-wife of Larry David on the hit show Curb Your Enthusiasm, which ran for 24 years before ending last year. A lot, of course, has happened to Cheryl since her time on that show, and she's written about it all in her brand new book called Unscripted. Cheryl Hines, congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to read some headlines from some of the reviews of the book.
I'm scared.
Cheryl Hines embraces MAGA wifedom. Of all the extras in this season of the Trump administration, Cheryl Hines is the most mystifying. And Cheryl Hines became the strangest thing to come out of Curb Your Enthusiasm.
So sweet.
So lovely and so
lovely.
supportive.
Yes.
So what has it been like to go through the maelstrom of experiencing not just press on Cheryl Hines, incredibly successful actress, but Cheryl Hines, wife of the Secretary of Health and Human Services, RFK Jr.?
It's been interesting because I've been married to Bobby for over a decade, and I've done a lot of press in my day, and nobody ever asked me about my husband until now. So it's just a different. I've had to pivot a little bit to be ready to answer questions. I don't want to say on his behalf, or about him, or people are curious, or so that's a different ball of wax, shall we say. So I have to be ready.
You actually write in the book that when the two of you met and the two of you married, this was not on the horizon. That this was not something that you thought was in the plan, so to speak, going forward.
No, I asked him when we met. I asked him, if he ever wanted to go into politics, had he ever thought of it. And at the time, he was an environmental attorney, and he said that he didn't have a desire to go into politics. So I was like, great, we're going to get along great.
And then?
And then he went into politics. Then he decided to run for president. And that I knew, I knew that was going to be a life changer. But I didn't know how it would change our lives.
What has surprised you most?
I have so many things that surprised me. I think people's reactions to it, and I mean, I've known people for, I have some friends that I've known for 30 years that we used to talk about politics together a little bit here and there, but people just started dividing, sort of dividing off, and politics is so emotional to some people, and it's some people cannot separate politics from even friendships, I guess.
You write in the book that you were taken aback by the reactions to your husband and by extension, the reaction that you get. And you actually told Bill Maher that Republicans have been kind. I can't say the same thing about Democrats. What do you mean by that?
Well, even when Bobby was running, I mean, he started out running as a Democrat. And the Democrats were, I'll say mad, not happy because he was running against Biden, and they really wanted nothing to do with him, and they really attacked him. And the Republicans also, I'm sure, weren't happy that he was running, but it did not feel or look or, what I was receiving, it did not feel like a character assassination every day.
And that's what you get now? I mean, we went through your Twitter account, and just that you posted on the publication of your book, the cover of your book, and we can show some of them on screen. We've had to pick the PG ones.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that people were posting and still post
Yeah.
today to you, a person not in political office, simply married to somebody who is, are pretty astounding.
Yes, pretty astounding. So, so that's been a change.
How do you deal with it? And do people in your real life, like when you're out and about, out to lunch, out to dinner, running errands, do people say things to you, approach you?
People, for the most part, are very kind to me and nice when we're out. Bobby, and I would say 90% of the people that come up to Bobby love him. And then there's a certain percentage that will come up and need to tell him something about him or how they feel. But we went to get coffee the other day, and this woman comes up and she tells Bobby, this and that. She wasn't that angry, but the things she was saying weren't nice. And then she looked at me and she said, "And I know you love him," and stormed off.
If that's the worst thing
if that was the worst thing that happened that day, I was doing okay.
Well, then, just like in life, people are a lot, unfortunately, more unrestrained and unhinged on social media than they are in real life.
Yes.
Listen, you were a formerly registered Democrat, and you write in the book that when Trump won in 2016, you put on country music and cried for a few hours. Why?
Well, that election, I was, and I still am, looking forward to having a female president. That will be very meaningful. And do
you think it's ever going to happen?
Michelle
Obama just said on stage she's not
think it's ever gonna happen.
America's ready for it.
I have no idea. It has to be the right
person.
It has to be the right person. And then also, at that point, I felt like what I had known from Trump was from TV, and it just didn't feel like this was a seasoned politician who, it felt like a lot of, I didn't know what to think, I didn't know what to expect, and I think
it sounds like, though, if you were crying, you weren't expecting good things.
I probably... I was disappointed, and I didn't know what to expect. So, yeah, I was probably living in a place of, oh no, what's going to happen?
Yeah. We have this article out today
that
says, shock poll. RFK Jr. is one of the most popular political figures in the country. Cheryl, is your husband going to run for president in 2028? And if so, are you ready for that?
Oh my gosh. He's not going to run for president in 2020.
Yeah, I think you said he wasn't going to run for president.
That's true. I didn't think he was going to go into politics. And the next thing I know, he's telling me he wants to run. I'm not. I'm going to say no, he's not.
Okay.
But that being said,
are you ready if he decides he does want to do this?
Can
anybody be ready for that?
No. It's so, because it's such a specific moment in time for anybody to run for president, and so few people do it, that there's no roadmap. No one can tell you, ooh, this is what's going to happen, because people don't know. Even somebody who has run, they'll have their own experience, and they will have shared experiences, certainly, but every, candidate is different and has to go through all the headlines and all the attacks and all of, as soon as you say you're going to run, it's just people come at you.
They pounce.
So it doesn't surprise me, honestly, that he's
so popular.
One of the popular, yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is it? an authenticity thing? I mean, you have to say the one thing your husband is unapologetically himself, you know.
It's true. He is accomplishing things that other people haven't been able to do. And people have talked about it for years, just like taking petroleum-based food dye out of food. That's been talked about for a long time. It's been proven for a long time that it's unhealthy, it's toxic. But for whatever reason, you know,
nobody got it out.
Bobby gets in there and he is doing it. You know, he's tackling some very tough issues. And I think a lot of people, they really appreciate his bravery, his focus, and his ability to cut through the red tape.
The book is called Unscripted. Tells a story of quite an extraordinary life, from literally hunting alligators in Florida to helming one of the most successful television shows ever, to now being a part of the Trump administration by marriage, via marriage. What a wild ride.
It's a wild ride. You couldn't have written this thing.
No. This would have gone into a Hollywood pitch room and somebody would have said, this is too unrealistic.
You went too far. Yeah.
There's no way this could happen.
Yes.
Cheryl Hines, lovely to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you.
We covered a lot of ground, so we'll air part 2 of that interview tomorrow, where Cheryl talks about meeting President Trump after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. She also addresses ongoing friction with the rest of the Kennedy family, as well as with former Hollywood friends like her former co-star Larry David. That's tomorrow night in part 2. Coming up for us tonight, NBA star Terry Rozier pleads not guilty in that alleged sports betting scheme. We're live outside the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse with all the details next. Of the dozens of people indicted in that wide-ranging sports gambling investigation, only one of them is a current NBA player. But that may not be for long. Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier pleaded not guilty in federal court in Brooklyn today. The 10-year NBA veteran is accused of giving insider information to friends to help them win bets based on his performance on court. In one example, from March of 2023, when Rozier was playing with the Hornets, prosecutors say he told his co-defendants that he would leave the game early with a supposed injury. His friends then placed more than $200,000 worth of bets on his performance. NewsNation correspondent Leah Lando is outside the courthouse with more. Leah, what happened in court today?
Yeah, a couple of things, Elizabeth. NBA player Terry Rozier and his friend Dinero Laster, they pled not guilty to charges related to that alleged gambling scheme. Both posted bond as well. Rozier, that was $3 million. Laster, it was $50,000. After that hearing, there was a separate hearing involving 6 of the men involved allegedly in this gambling scheme. They were in the federal courtroom for a status conference. Now, some takeaways from that: prosecutors requested this case be labeled complex. The judge granted that. Prosecutors said there will be voluminous discovery in this case, talking about over 1,000 pages of evidence, including bank and phone records. That's just the first set, they say, which doesn't include any material discovered through warrants. And Rozier's lawyer has said his client, who is currently suspended without pay from the NBA, had no knowledge of the scheme. And today he indicated he intended to file a motion to dismiss. So we'll continue to follow that as well. And there's another NBA gambling case that we've been following for you. Last month, more than 30 people were in court charged on alleged scheme involving accusations of rigged poker games with links to the mafia. And one of the men who pled not guilty, Portland Trailblazer coach Chauncey Billups. He is also being charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and money laundering. And there is a connection here. Some men are also facing separate charges for their alleged involvement in both of these cases, including Eric Ernest and Damon Jones and Shane Hennon. The NBA is conducting its own investigation, and the next court appearance is scheduled for March 13th. Elizabeth?
Yeah, that is quite quite a wide-ranging case. Leah, thank you so much. Coming up, we're going to go back to our top story. President Trump is hitting the road with his affordability tour tomorrow, and not a moment too soon. Chris Cuomo joins me next. We will discuss the economy and how people feel about it in America. All right, this time tomorrow, President Trump will be in Pennsylvania launching his affordability tour. And it's not a moment too soon for some congressional Republicans who are on the ballot in next year's midterms. They are nervous about holding their seats. Chris Cuomo joins me now. Chris, Trump needs to sell, we had Kelly Meyer on saying, I asked her, any new policies? And she said, no, it's a message, that it's going to get better. Do you think that's enough to just say it's going to get better?
Kelly Meyer is a good reporter. However, there are things that we do not know. And I would tell you that there are absolutely going to be policies. And I will tell you that this is the best decision that President Trump has made, in my opinion, in this second term. Going around the country to talk about this issue matters most to the most. So what I'm looking out for is who tries to distract us from this. You know how I feel. Venezuela matters. There are real congressional issues there. How we conduct, how we prosecute, how we execute policy with violence matters. But they're making more of it because they think it helps them more. This is the issue. Affordability means the most to the most people. Let's see who tries to take us off that track.
Yeah, it's crucial for them to hold onto Congress, which is crucial to President Trump's second half of his second term in office. Looking forward to seeing what you've got planned for tonight. Have a great show, my friend.